Welcome back to Nitty Gritty News 2.0. I'm here with a longtime friend of mine, Mark Davis. Me and Mark have always shared a similar taste in music, so I want to have this brief discussion with him. But first, Mark has traveled abroad extensively as a DJ and as an artist. Matter of fact, Mark, why don't you kind of talk about your experience overseas and travels?
Well, I first went overseas and went abroad to London, UK, for the Essential Festival at Finsbury Park back in 1996. And I went over there with De La Soul, Kool Keith from the Ultramagnetics, Brand Nubian, DJ Spin from Chicago, Lee Scratch Perry. I was actually performing as well. And it was just a big, phenomenal change in my life when I went over there and see how the Europeans embraced black music, and extensively, a lot of the artists are still able, from the golden era of music, still able to go out there and do shows constantly working and performing to the kids out there.
And we've talked about this over the years, because you've told me this several times about how a lot of those throwback artists from the late 80s and early 90s, although you don't really see them much over here today, but you explained to me how they're still viable and still drawing crowds overseas, right?
Yeah, definitely. Most of the artists, especially in even with the hip hop, from Big Daddy Kane to Cool G Rap, MC Shan, KRS-One, they all still go over there and perform and do shows constantly, because they still have a catalog of music, and so their music never dies down. It just continues to go on, repeat itself after generation and generation. Still can appreciate them.
And briefly, what do you think is the difference in the U.S.? Those artists, for a lot of rap people who listen to rap, they think of those artists as old school, played out, it's over for those artists. Whereas you got today's artists. Can you kind of briefly touch on what's keeping those artists still viable overseas?
Well, a lot of them put out classic albums, and their fathers and their brothers and stuff have educated them on the music, and that sound is just a respect for that particular sound, especially in the golden era with the samples and the break beats, and rhyming and have something to say on over beats. They're just more into that. And it's just a younger generation. And, Wu-Tang, all those groups are still doing well. They go all over, from London to all through Scandinavia. You name it, they go over there and do shows.
And speaking of KRS-One, we're going to get into it briefly, but you interviewed Chris. Right now, we want to go into that brief interview from Mark Davis with KRS-One. Check this out.
Now, I want you to elaborate on something for me. I'm going to drop something. Mastermind Productions, Pat Miller, Keyboard Money Mike, yes. Said G, Scott LaRock, SB12, Ultramagnetic MCs.
Yes.
And a relationship with Boogie Down Productions. I ain't waited 15 years plus to ask you that.
Damn. Well, here's
Real
the relationship. On 166th Street in Boston Road in the Bronx, I was in a homeless shelter there. Scott LaRock was the social worker at the shelter, and I was one of the clients. There was another guy named Funk Master, the original Funk Master from a graffiti crew called the Rascals. And Funk Master was a security guard at the shelter. Funk Master heard me and Just Ice in the bathroom of the shelter beating on the wall. And Just Ice was doing LaToya back then on the wall. We used to go, I used to do the beat, and he used to be like, LaToya, LaToya. So I used to do the beat, and he used to do the LaToya. So Funk Master heard it and said, yo, there's a dude in the projects named Said G, and he got this new machine, a new sampler, and you got to go check him. So I went over there. Now here's the deal. I'm coming out the shelter. I'm dirty. I stink. My clothes is I'm out the shelter. They didn't judge me. I'll never forget this about Said G, okay? When I met Said G, he was chilling. He was fresh from head to toe. He was eating every day. I walked in his house. I'm the homeless guy. I walk in. First thing, his mom sat me down. His mom sat me down and put a plate of food in front of me. I didn't ask for the food or nothing, but I guess they assumed. She put the mac and cheese out with the same. It just was like out of a playbook, like an African American recipe book. You know, mac and cheese, collard greens, fried fish, candied. Yeah, it was like a Thanksgiving dinner. I sat down. Now, I'm from the shelter. Everything's plastic and styrofoam. This is the first time in like maybe even a year that I see a ceramic plate and a steel fork. And I never forget, my hand couldn't adjust to the fork. I couldn't pick the fork up because it was a steel fork or silver or whatever it was. But I was so used to little plastic forks and styrofoam like for about a year. So I'm sitting in Said G house. His mom's come lay out the food. I almost bit the plate. Dude, I was like, yo, I scarfed that down. Anything Said G said at that moment, if he said, yo, go up the block and kill that dude, I was out. Yeah. Sure, if he said, yo, I need you to do anything he said at that moment, I was with it. Luckily, he said, yo, spit your rhyme. No problem. I start lacing him. Start giving him stuff about nuclear war and the universe and Malcolm X, and he was like, yo, ain't nobody rhyming like that. I didn't know. These are my rhymes. This is how I get down. So Said G was like, yo, you got to, come on, I got to record you tomorrow. I came back the next day. I'm in his room. This time now he brings like 5, 6 other MCs. Kool Keith is like 11 years old. Kool Keith is like, he's a little guy running around listening to us rock. Like, this is just amazing me, like Kool Keith is now. But then Kool Keith was real young, Said G, and his brother Pat, rest in peace. So these 5 MCs are in there, and they have the old rhymes. You know, like Run DMC, you know, I'm D, he's Run, I'm J, he's D, we gonna rock this beat, da 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 da. They was going like that. So I'm coming with, that's all single, no more, no lie. That's how I was going. I'm like doing 16, but I never heard that. You know, this is before poetry was, that's before Eric B. and Rock, this is before all the styles changed. It was all Run DMC style. So Said G caught me, he said, yo, let's make demos together. So technically, I'm the first member of Ultramagnetic. Technically, it could have easily, if Said G said, no, I don't want you to go with Scott LaRock. You should be here. I'd be like, I'm sorry, Scott. I'm here with Said G. This is what, I was focused on Said G. And it wasn't about the music. It was about the food. It was about the food and the warm plate. And to be in a room, like outside the shelter, I was like, I can live here forever. I'm homeless. Right. Dude invited me in his bedroom. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know this might not mean anything to anybody, but when you homeless and somebody invites you in their house and you living in the street, I was like, love, dude, what forever, whatever.